This is why you shouldn't let just anybody around your kids. Wear a mask while you watch this story time. I promise you're gonna want to. So when I was around 15 years old, I started doing really bad in school. My parents were really poor and my dream was to go to college, so I needed to work my ass off so I could get a scholarship. But with how my grades were looking, it did not seem like I was gonna get one. My school offered after school tutoring classes, so I started taking them. Just in case I didn't get that scholarship, my parents started working late hours so they could pay for my college. They also hired a part-time babysitter / housekeeper. Mind you, my parents worked all day until super late at night. Our job was to arrive after we all left to clean up the messes that we didn't have time to clean up in the morning or the night before. Then she was supposed to pick me up from my tutoring classes, stay at the house and watch me until my bedtime, which was about 9 p.m. Then she was supposed to leave. But one day we were sitting at the kitchen table eating breakfast and we all catch a drift of this terrible smell. My dad finds out that the smell is coming from the basement. As soon as he opened the door, the smell just hit you in the face. We all go down there to check where the smell's coming from. We see a pile of human feces. Laying next to it is my babysitter. Part 2 of why you should never let just anybody around your kids. So we go to check out the smell in the basement. And there my babysitter is, laying next to a pile of her own shit. My parents wake her up and everyone's covering their mouth and nose with our shirt. I go upstairs because the smell. I let my parents deal with that shit. Literally. I hear my dad yelling at her and telling her to get out. She explains that she used to be a full-time nanny and she has nowhere else to go because they kicked her out. If she was shitting on the floor, who the fuck wouldn't kick her out? She says she did that because she gets really bad anxiety at night and can't go upstairs or we would hear her and wake up. Because you have anxiety does not give you the right to shit on the floor. I have anxiety. Do you see me shitting on the floor? So my parents kick her out anyways, like any reasonable person would. And we thought that was the last that we were gonna see of her. But one night at like 2 a.m. in the morning, I hear a tapping on my window. So I wake up and there's my babysitter staring at me through my window. She looks sad and she like motions for me to let her in. I'm looking at her like, the fuck no? And so that sadness quickly turns to anger and she starts banging on my window. Part 3 of why you shouldn't let just anybody around your kids. Like I said, they're my stalker ass babysitter is banging on my window at 2 a.m. in the morning, and so I quickly go to get my parents because what if she breaks that shit and breaks in? Once I leave my room, I hear the banging stop, but I still go to tell my parents what just happened. My dad calls the police and they check around the area and she's nowhere to be found. The smell goes away, we don't see her anymore, so we think everything's good now. But one day my mom texts me and tells me that she left me a tray of cookies on the dining table for when I get back from tutoring. Well, I didn't see any cookies or a tray. When my mom gets home, she wakes me up and asks me where I put the tray. I told her that I didn't even see the tray of cookies. So my mom tries looking for the tray because she needs it for when she cooks. She never finds it. Mind you, my family like never goes to our basement. But one day my dad needs some tools to help fix his buddy's car. He also notices that the tray we were looking for is in the basement. We're all freaked out at this point because our babysitter was secretly living in our house. Now things are going missing and being misplaced. And after looking around for any suspicion that she might have been there again, we notice a broken lock in the window of our basement. Part 4 of why you shouldn't let just anybody around your kids. So after putting 2 and 2 together and realizing that my babysitter had been sneaking into our house through our basement window and also noticing that things have been going missing, we call the police and report her because it was just so obviously her. She did not do a good job at all at covering her tracks. When the police look her up, they say she has no criminal record and that she's not enlisted in any housing. So she was homeless. So my parents go ahead and fix the lock on our basement window. I'm guessing once she found out that she couldn't get in anymore, she stopped trying. So afterwards, my parents stopped working as much and I got a friend to start dropping me off at home after my tutoring classes. Once I would get home, I would do all the cleaning just to help my parents out. So then they could keep working their long hours so I could go to college. My parents were kind of iffy about leaving me at home by myself. Child, I could fight. So everything was good and we never saw her again. Quick story time. At the time, me and my friend got jumped in the Walmart parking lot. So me and my friend were steady beefing with these 2 girls that went to our school and they were just like mean girls. Like they were literally the definition of mean girls. They always bothered us just to bother us. Child, I might take this wig off. They were just always picking on us and they were just like really mean. So we were just driving around and we ended up at Walmart. And there are those 2 girls. They were checking out and they saw us too and they stared dead at us. Now me and my friend are not fighters. We usually try to avoid the people that hate us so nothing happens. So we hurry up and try to get out of there before they finish checking out. We got as far as our car and then they walked out of the store. And obviously, because they were mean girls, they yelled our names, came towards us, took the bags that we had, threw the shit we just bought everywhere. Like I said, we don't fight, but we had to defend ourselves. But we're not good at fighting, so we're getting beat up. And one of their friends comes out of their car and joins in. Wigs are being snatched, eyelashes are getting ripped off. It's a mess, honey. Eventually, a Walmart security guard told us that we had to leave, or they were gonna call the cops. And then we got banned from Walmart forever, so. Let me tell y'all how I ruined my uncle's engagement proposal while I take off my makeup. So basically, my uncle threw a little get-together, invited my family, obviously. At that get-together, he was planning on proposing to his soon-to-be fiance. He brought out a really big cake, and that cake had whipped cream on it. Okay, best believe I dived in. Listen, I'm not a big fan of icing, but I might do a backflip for some whipped cream. Everyone Everyone got a slice of cake and it was gone. The plate was completely empty. My uncle starts panicking and looking around. Everyone starts eyeing him because he's acting really weird. Mind you, nobody knew that he was going to propose to his girlfriend. Me and my family end up having to leave early because of my little sister's ballet ceremony. Eventually, my dad gets a call from my uncle basically saying that he was planning the proposal and the ring is nowhere to be found. Now, where did he put the ring, you may ask? Well, it was in the center of the cake and it was supposed to be a big reveal once everybody took their piece. My parents come to me and ask me if I've seen it anywhere. I told them that I had no idea. And all of a sudden, ooh, I gotta take a shit. When I got to the bathroom, I was blowing up the toilet, okay? I felt something real rough pop out my booty hole. I turn around to look because it hurt, and I see a ring in the toilet bowl floating amidst my diarrhea. Part 2 of how I ruined my uncle's engagement proposal while I take off my makeup. So like I said, after I ate the cake at the engagement party for my uncle's proposal, I got really bad diarrhea. And when I go to the bathroom, I shit out the ring. So a lot was going through my mind at this moment. I didn't know if I was supposed to grab it. Do I reach into my diarrhea and take it out? Do I rinse it and then give it back? Or do I just flush and act like I didn't see shit? Who would really want a ring that was sitting in somebody's diarrhea? Even if I rinsed it, even if I washed it with soap, it still had the diarrhea particles on it. There's all different types of creases in rings. So best believe I flushed that shit. Act like that whole thing did not just happen. Well, things took a turn for the worse once my uncle said that he paid $10,000 for that ring. I felt extremely guilty. I'd rather feel guilty than admit to anybody what happened. Until this day, nobody in my family knows what happened to that ring. I will live with this secret until the day that I die. Story time on how my boyfriend got away with touching his own little sister. So I started dating this guy in like 2018. He lives like 45 minutes away from me, but he couldn't drive because he had a DUI. So his license was suspended. Well, I had a car, but I was in college, so I didn't have time to drive up to where he was at every single day. So we would only hang out on the weekends until he got his license back. Mind you, this man was a bum. He had no job. He wasn't even in school. I liked him despite all of that because I thought he was a genuine sweet guy. He still lived with his parents, but he was only 23, so I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. But anyways, one day he came to pick me up and we went to his house. He told me that he had a little sister, but this would be my first time actually meeting her in person. She was only 8 years old and he was 23. She was super cute and sweet, so the more we hung out, the more I got close with her. Well, one day me, my boyfriend, and his little sister are all in his room watching TV. He goes to the bathroom and me and her start talking. I ask her what she likes to do for fun. She tells me she likes playing the game Dress Up. So I ask her how to play. She tells me that you have to strip completely naked. The person that you're playing with dresses you up, and that she plays the game with her older brother because he's the one who taught her. Part 2 of how my boyfriend got away with touching his own little sister. My boyfriend's in the bathroom and his little sister tells me that she plays this game called Dress Up that he taught her. You strip butt-ass naked. You let the person you're playing with dress you up. Obviously, my mind went south. I didn't know if I should have told her in that moment if it was wrong and not normal because I didn't want her to freak out before I got the chance to help her. So I asked her, how many times have you played this game with your older brother? She tells me that she plays it all the time and that she really likes it. So now I'm thinking he has completely groomed her. She thinks this game is completely okay. My boyfriend comes back in the room and we finish the night off watching a bunch of movies. I didn't know what else to do. So I leave his house and then the next day I call him and I ask him about this little game. The first thing he does is get mad, says that she's young and dumb and doesn't know what she's talking about, that it's wrong of me to just falsely accuse him of things like this. So he breaks up with me. I didn't really care, but I was thinking about his little sister, that I needed to get back into that house so I could ask her more questions. So I begged for him back. Even though I didn't really like him, I told him that I believed him, that I wanted to come over so we could work things out. This is what happened when I went to his house. Part 3 of how my boyfriend got away with touching his own little sister. So he breaks up with me after I tell him what his sister told me about this game that they play where you strip completely naked. Yeah, that game. Me not having enough proof to take it to the authorities just yet, I begged for him back so I can go over to his house again, get more info from his little sister. For some odd reason, when I went over to his house, his little sister just wasn't anywhere to be seen. Me and him are sitting in his room watching a movie, and he goes to the bathroom. I see his little sister peek her head through the door. I'm like, hey, come here. She seems super excited to see me, and she tells me, Mom and Dad told me I couldn't talk to you anymore. So I ask her why, and she says that they told him that I was a bad person and I make up lies about people, including her older brother. So I ask her what lies I made up. She says they didn't tell her. Now I'm thinking, so the parents are in on it too. So I continue to ask her questions about this game that they play. Like, have you told your parents? She says yes, she's told her parents, that they didn't see anything wrong with it. That's just another reason for her to think that it's okay. So that's when shit goes south and her parents walk in. Part 4 of how my boyfriend got away with touching his own little sister. So my boyfriend's little sister tells me that their parents know about this game that she plays with her older brother, where they strip completely naked. So as she's telling me more and more, her parents walk in. It was the first time I disrespected somebody in their own home. They start yelling at her for not staying put where they told her to stay put. That way I couldn't talk to her. That's when I snap and I start going off on her parents. And how I know that their son is touching their little daughter and they're not doing anything about it. And that I'm not afraid to report them. And her parents go ballistic. It's also when my boyfriend gets gets out of the bathroom. Mom comes up to me and tries to smack me. Dodged it. Then she's yelling and screaming at me to get out of her house. It's kind of a hard situation because I knew that if I called the police, I would have no proof of anything. I would necessarily be trespassing since they told me to get out. That little girl can't speak for herself. They groomed her. She thinks it's okay. I wasn't gonna leave that little girl in that house, so I stood my ground. That's when my boyfriend grabs me. The dad grabs me. They pick me up. I can't even make this up when I say that they threw me out their front door. Part 5 of how my boyfriend got away with touching his own little sister. So after I confront the parents about it, my boyfriend and his dad both pick me up and they chuck me out their front door. They go back inside and then my boyfriend comes out again and throws my purse at me. My heart was torn to shreds because I knew that there was nothing that I could do. I didn't have enough proof of anything and I knew that I could not get back into that house ever again. Now I can't talk to that little girl. But I went ahead and reported them to Children's Services anyways. They said the most they could do was a well-being check. Obviously they didn't see anything wrong in the well-being check because nobody in that household was going to admit what really happened. And I also know it went well because after they threw me out of their house, my boyfriend had blocked me completely on all social medias, but I still did have his friends on social media. And I saw one of his friends post a Snapchat at his house with him and his little sister in the background, which means that little girl never got taken out of that house. I also made sure to tell all of his friends, but everybody just thought that I was lying and trying to falsely accuse him. So there was nothing that I could do. Here's another toxic ex-best friend story time. So me and this girl became friends through a play that we were doing in school. The plays at my school were always mad funny, so everybody on set was really cool. We hit it off like this. She offered to drive me home after the rehearsals and the practices. We would always go to get coffee after our practices, but after doing that for a while, we just started hanging out after school. Well, eventually we got close and I invited her to this slumber party that I was having. Should've never done that. And here's why. I also invited my boyfriend of 5 months and my other close friends. We were all having a really good time, you know, busting it down, throwing it back, talking shit, playing games, whatever. We specifically talked a lot of shit about her ex-best friend. We, as in everybody at the slumber party. Emphasis on we. Keep that in mind. At this point, it was getting really late. It was like 2 a.m. I ended up dozing off and falling asleep. Now, I woke up to some very slight clapping, and so I turn around. I see my best friend doing the spread eagle on my boyfriend. Like for part 2. Part 2 of my toxic ex-best friend story time. I wake up because I hear some clapping and I turn around. I see my best friend doing the spread eagle on my boyfriend. Busted wide open. No remorse. None. So my best friend at the time sees me looking at them, giving me a very much, oh, you wish that was you, huh? Look. You're probably wondering what was going through my mind at that moment. Well, murder wasn't on my mind, surprisingly. I had another plan. So once my boyfriend notices that I'm awake, he tries to push her off of him as if he wasn't just doing what he was doing and tries to apologize, saying things like, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. You were asleep. I just couldn't help myself. You know, just a bunch of bullshit. And so I'm like, y'all putting on a show with the amazing actress that I am? Not gonna let me join? You know I always get the lead roles in the plays. Come on. Mind you, I was basically completely over my boyfriend at this point. I already started losing interest in him. This basically just did it for me. So I'm like, hello, lights, camera, action, let's get it going. And so I start to go down on him. Then I just take a big old bite right from his. Part 3 of my toxic ex-best friend story time. Like I said, I wake up from my own slumber party and see my best friend and my boyfriend getting it in at like 3 a.m. in the morning. I asked to join and then I took a chomp out of my boyfriend's badonkadonk. And not only did I do that, but right after I took that big ass bite, I turned to my best friend, bit her titty. Now we were all equal because now they're feeling the pain that I'm feeling. So now my boyfriend's mad. My best friend is crying. And I can't lie, I loved to see it. The tears rolling down her face was just, there's something about it. Just made me want to. Anywho, obviously I kicked them out of my house. I need to realize that I had bought my boyfriend a gift. It was over like $500 and I wanted that shit back. So I pulled up to his house and his mom answered the door. So I'm like, how you doing, Miss Judge 𝙤𝙤𝙧𝙚? I am here to get my money from this man. He did end up giving me back the gift. Getting a lot of texts from my best friend at the time. She was just trying to apologize, trying to make it seem like she really felt bad or something. After I completely ignored her and left her on red, she went ahead and posted a video of her on top of my boyfriend. You can see me sleeping next to them in the video. Part 4 of my toxic ex-best friend story time. So like I said, I kicked my boyfriend out and my best friend out after I saw them sleeping together at my slumber party. One day I started getting flooded with texts and then I get sent a video that my best friend posted of her on top of my boyfriend and you can see me sleeping in the video right next to them. Obviously I was 1, embarrassed, and 2, thinking of an escape plan for when I have to escape from jail. I'm just kidding. I wanted to be petty, but I decided to take the smarter route instead. I didn't even bother texting her or saying anything to her at all. I just screenshotted all the videos that she was posting from her account. Not to mention she captioned it, couldn't even keep your man. Sis, didn't even want him. Anywho, she also posted a video of a voice recording of us all talking shit about her ex-best friend. All of us were talking shit, but she said in the caption that it was just me. Well, my other close friends were there and they vouched for me that it wasn't just me. So she just looked dumb. And I just ended up telling the school what happened. I brought other people who saw what happened for proof, because having the pictures of my phone would get me in trouble. And so she ended up getting expelled and got charged for having and spreading child pornography.
I lit a spark into a flame. You seem to take my breath away. All these endless summer nights, sleeping under city lights. Are we living in real life? 'Cause I think I might be dreaming with you. I'm finally where I belong. I belong with you. I just wanna stay here in your arms, with you. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. With you, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I learned to heal from all the pain. You show me how I can feel again. All these endless summer nights, sleeping under city lights. Are we living in real life? 'Cause I think I might be dreaming. You fought all the monsters and demons in the dark. Help me fix the pieces.
Saw the KKK. They said they would check the area out. We were supposed to like meet the police around that area. We could tell them exactly where we saw them. But when we got there, they told us that they had arrested somebody, but they weren't in like a white hood. Just a regular person, but they had a gun. I don't know if that person was a KKK member, but we went home safely after that. This is the time I fought my mom because her boyfriend was touching me in my sleep and she defended him. I was 16 when this happened. I'm 20 years old now. He was touching me, she knew about it, and she didn't do anything. Yes, they're still together till this day. And no, I do not talk to either of them. Let's get into it. So my mom had just recently divorced my dad, and so she got a new boyfriend. His name was 𝙎𝙤𝙧𝙚. Now let me tell you, I was not rocking with 𝙎𝙪𝙗 from jump because he was always a little too touchy. If I sat down next to him, he'd squeeze my knee, would sneak up behind me and rub my shoulder. And when he would hug me, his hands would go a little too far down my back. Whenever he would come over, I'd just stay in my room. But one night, it was like damn near midnight. Mind you, I'm asleep because I don't play about my sleep. I wake up suddenly because I had a feeling somebody was in my room. So I turn on my lamp that's on the side of my bed. When I turn around, I see 𝙎𝙧𝙧 in my room with his back turned towards me, trying to sneak out of my room. But not only was he trying to sneak out of my room, he had my panties in his hands. So I look under my covers, and sure enough, my panties are gone. Part 2 gets even worse. This is part 2 of when I fought my mom because her boyfriend was touching me in my sleep and she defended him. So I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night to see him trying to sneak out of my room with my panties in his hands. Instant tears started flooding my eyes because I knew what he had done. And I knew that if I told anyone, no one would believe me. Because like I said, I didn't like him from jump because he was always too touchy. And I told my mom how I felt that way and she told me that I need to start wearing less revealing clothes. But back to what I was saying. Like that motherfucking low life ass piece of shit notices that I woke up, he runs out of the room, and then I hear him leave through the front door. So I quickly get dressed so I could go tell my mom what happened because I didn't know what else to do. I wake her up and go, "Ma, 𝙎𝙧𝙧 just touched me in my sleep." She says, "Girl, stop making up these low fantasies in your head and go back to sleep." And so I told her, no, I woke up in the middle of him trying to leave my room with my panties in his hands, and once he noticed that I saw him, he left through the front door. Then she gets mad at me and starts yelling at me and says, and I quote, "I don't need you running men out my house." That's crazy because my dad was her 5th husband. 𝙎𝙧𝙧 was about to be her 6th. If anybody was running men out this house, it was her. I'm tired of her BS at this point. She's yelling all up in my face, and so I shove her. This is where it gets crazy. Part 3 of the time I fought my mom because her boyfriend touched me in my sleep and she defended him. So I woke up my mom to tell her that her boyfriend had just touched me in my sleep. And she gets mad at me and starts yelling and screaming at me. But the amount of shit that she put me through, she had no right. So I'm sick of her BS at this point, and so I shove her. I had never put my hands on my mama before this. My mama deserved to get her ass whooped. How toxic she was. If she wasn't my mama, if she was just some other regular bitch, I probably would have already threw hands with her like 10 times. So now we're on the floor of her bedroom, scrapping it out. And no, I did not show her no mercy. Obviously, I went and whooped her ass because 16 years of being mistreated. Come on, at this point, I had a heart of steel and hands of steel. So she's screaming and she's yelling and she's talking about, "I'm gonna call the police on you." I was like, call them. After I tell them what happened, they're gonna be on the look for your boyfriend. She tells me to get my stuff and get out. I said, say less, so I start packing. I texted a close friend who I had already told about Daryl being a creep, and they came to get me. I lived with that friend for 2 years until I turned 18 and moved into my own place. I have an amazing boyfriend who understands my trauma and takes everything slow with me. I no longer have contact with Daryl or my mom, and now I only see them through social media posts. This is a story about the time I got arrested because I was with my friend when she stole from Kroger. So I was at Kroger looking for snacks with my friend, let's call her Kaylee. Kaylee goes and wanders off somewhere and leaves me in the bread aisle. She didn't tell me where she was going, but about 10 minutes later she came back with a pair of lashes in her hands. She tells me she paid for the lashes up front and to put them in my pocket. I didn't know that she was stealing, so I put them in my pocket. One of the workers saw and called the police. When the police arrived, Kaylee grabs the lashes and tries to make a run for it. So I look after her and I yell, "Justice for Brandon Bernard." Why did I yell that, you may ask? Because this story didn't actually happen. But since you're watching, you might as well finish the video. A somewhat similar situation did happen to a black man named Brandon Bernard who was executed last night at 9:27 p.m. for a crime he did not commit. He was pressed with 2 murder charges for only being an accomplice to a murder. He didn't murder anyone, yet he still got charged with murder. Now Trump could have stopped all of this, but he didn't have enough time to save a black man from being executed. He was too busy tweeting. And this is one of the many tweets that he made while he could have been preventing the execution. So is the world really killing itself? Or will y'all not just stop killing black people?